Fox defenders making a bit of mess of that. It's done, that's through. Oh, Huddersfield Town 1, Halifax 0-0. And Iain Dunn scored on his debut. Wright with a good header, finding Dunn. O'Regan to Dunn. Oh my God, that's well, it's found Dunn.
From Steen and Charlton picks it up, now Barney. Only 2 to aim at, this is done. And it's gone in! It's stayed in!
Gotta be. Off the line! Off the line again! Now it's in! Well, the warning signs have been there.
Comes out to Simon Trevett. Bullock. Phil Robertson. Iain Dunn gets a shot in. And a fantastic goal by Iain Dunn, who's done it once again. 4 minutes from time, and Iain Dunn, who has this lovely habit of scoring in cup ties, has done it again to give Huddersfield Town a 4-1 advantage. Flicked on by Dunn, but no one there, or no one from the Town side. Brave header, comes to Dunn. It's there! It's there! Iain Dunn has scored! Huddersfield Town won! Bradford City won! Scored in the 84th minute! Iain Dunn works the oracle!
And when the ball twice came back from Ronnie Jepson, it was Dunn who was there to put Huddersfield in front.
And so to that little bit of history at the McAlpine Stadium, where Huddersfield Town became the first club in English football to win a cup tie in an extra-time sudden death playoff. The victims were Lincoln City, the final score 3-2, and the man who will feature in the quiz books, goalscorer Iain Dunn.
His name this season gets his chance here. And Iain Dunn likewise is on for Huddersfield Town in place of Gary Crosby. Dunn immediately goes over to take up the same position that Crosby has been filling. And it is a tactical switch, we are told. And Mick on the touchline, hit straight away in possession is Dunn. And he floats one across here, Boo's in, Jepson's there, Billy's in! A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town! Thunderous applause around Wembley. What a substitution, because Iain Dunn played his part in it.
Okay, so as usual, this episode is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Sadly, at the moment, Magic Rock is closed due to the coronavirus outbreak, but the Welcome Centre, who are very close to what Magic Rock do, are still open, and if you've got a little bit of spare money hanging around at the minute, they are taking a couple of donations for people who are struggling at the moment. So have a check of the HTSA website and social media, as well as the Cowshed Loyal, and if you can help out, that'd be fantastic, and hopefully we'll come out of this quite soon. Right, welcome to episode 65 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. Today we have a special episode of Those Were the Days. I'm your host and cup specialist, Matt Shaw. Joining me today, he's got no hair, but we don't care. It's Richard Kosi Kosmala, and welcoming the super sub Neil Wayne. And I'm delighted to welcome Huddersfield Town cult hero, icon, legend to the podcast. It's Iain Dunn.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, nice introduction as well. I fell in twice.
Can I cheer now? I feel like I should cheer with Dunny on now.
I have to sing a song. Firstly, and a very happy 50th birthday for you the other day. It was your 50th. It only seems like a few years ago you were running around as a 20-something, doesn't it, at Leeds Road? And I think we've all got quite strong memories of you flying up and down the wings. You still look like you could run up and down the wing, to be fair.
Yeah, I can't, but I wish I could. But yeah, 50th birthday seems incredible, really. And you're right. I look back at, as we all probably do, I think little memories that we have, and things pop up on your social media feeds, and they just remind you of what you once did. And I've got to remind my younger sort of nephews and nieces that really was me. It wasn't just someone making something up. So yeah, some nice memories. All gone far too quickly though.
So how is everything with you? Obviously, we're doing a lot of lockdown episodes because of the situation at the minute. Everything okay with you that you're finding over there? So I presume you're based sort of York area or York postal code. You don't have to tell us your address. It's okay. But
no, I'll do that.
How are you finding everything over at your end? Are you?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it is what it is. So we're doing what we're told to do, and hopefully that the government and people are making the correct decisions and lead us out of this mess as quickly as possible. But obviously, listening today, it's quite fresh on the news today about another 3 weeks lockdown, and if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And the people of York, from what I've seen so far, and I haven't ventured out too much myself, just done a few jogs, cycle around my vicinity where I live, been shopping, etc., etc. And yeah, it's very, very quiet. It's surreal. Really is. I cycled through the middle of York the other day to take some stuff to my mother, who lives on her own, and she needed some essentials, and to cycle through York on a Monday morning, and it was absolutely dead. It shows that people are taking notice, certainly in York, and hopefully around the country, and get through this and smile at the end of it, hopefully in a month's time.
Hopefully so. So I thought what we would do tonight is just have some fun and rekindle some old memories and have a bit of a walk through your career. I think there's a lot of great, I was going through them, and there's a lot of great football memories around supporting Huddersfield Town at that time. But before Huddersfield Town, just let us know how you kind of got into football. Obviously, there was no academy football back then, was there? So you kind of joined York City, had a spell at York, and then you bounced around sort of Peterborough, Chesterfield, Scarborough, and then you ended up at Goole, didn't you? So just let us know how you sort of joined in.
Like an upward curve, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, like every young lad in my era, my age group, I wanted to be a professional footballer. The dream was to play for your hometown club, which for me at that time was York City. And I just followed the normal routes, played club football, school football. I was lucky enough to get called up for like the Yorkshire schoolboys and the North of England schoolboys. I didn't do the usual, in our day, they used to do something called the YTS, it's called the Youth Training Scheme. For 16-year-olds to 18-year-olds got on the YTS, and you got your £27 a week, and you cleaned the pros' boots, and generally got pillaged probably by all the professionals at the club at the time. I missed that. I went to college, but it was probably the best thing I did. It was my dad's recommendation, really, to do my extra studies and then hopefully make a backwards route into football, which happened for me quite nicely. I ended up really between 16 and 18. I was lucky. I played for England schoolboys, the under-19 team, and it was from that I got interest from other clubs. But I was already at York as a schoolboy on schoolboy terms. So I was training with them on a weekend, playing intermediate games on a Saturday morning, training on a weekend, evenings, etc., etc. It was weird because Leeds United actually tried to sign me just before I signed for York at 18. I was never going to go there, to be fair. Not because it's Leeds United. I probably would never have got a sniff. But now I was just over the moon to play for, or get a contract offer from York City. Did that, and that was me on the road to football. Had a good couple of years at York. I had a really good start. I scored 3 goals in the first 5 games and was doing okay. And then sort of typically petered out a little bit as a striker. I ended up playing on the wing for York more than anything, which served me well as far as ending up at Huddersfield Town, because that's predominantly where I played a lot of my games. So I did the usual route. It was good, it was exciting, and I had a lot of luck along the way. until York released me. They released me I was 21, 1991. They released me. And at the time, I had Blackpool, Chesterfield, and somebody else were after me. I went to trials at Blackpool. I spent all of May 1991. I think they must have been in the playoffs. So their season had extended. So they were still training. I think it was Biddy Air was the manager, called me across and said, "Want to have a look at me?" Trained with them. Then in the summer, Chesterfield also. Chris McMenemy got in touch, asked me to go there as well. And cut a long story short, people want to know all this probably, but yeah, I ended up getting offered a year's contract at Chesterfield. But to be honest, it was my first time of living away from home. Lived in Doncaster, I think it was, so I was halfway and a half. I was very much a homeboy, and I didn't really settle at all. Well, to be honest, at the end of the 1992 season, they released me. And that's how I found myself at Gould Town. Do you want to know that story?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
So a footballer who used to play for York City, a lad called Dale Banton, was manager of Gould Town at the time. And as soon as I got released, he was on and said, "Listen, come and play for us, and you'll bounce straight back in. Some clubs will come in for you. You'll be absolutely fine." And of course, during that time, I was keeping myself fit. I was training at Scarborough. The reason why it's on my Wikipedia that I played for Scarborough, Peterborough, God knows who else, is because every time I had to go and train with them, I had to sign a non-contract, a non-playing contract, so that I was available to play for their reserves. So I never actually signed for Scarborough or Peterborough. They were more like trials. Yeah. But it looks like I played for them. I haven't. I think I was subbing the Anglo-Italian Cup for Peterborough against Wolves. And I can't remember if I got on or not. But I enjoyed my time at Peterborough. It was good. But to be honest, while I was playing for Gould, I was training with Scarborough. I did pre-season with Scarborough, and it was the toughest pre-season I think I've ever had.
Was Neil Warnock there then? Oh, he was at Notts County, wasn't he?
Way after, yeah. It was Ray McHale was manager. And it really was. It was when I say tough, it was good. I was really knocked out of my sort of comfort zone. I was half decent at York. I was quite nippy. I played for England schoolboys. Maybe my head was a little bit, thought this will be a stepping stone to something good. And it didn't happen, so I got a bit of a slap down in that respect. But then, like I say, when I did that pre-season at Scarborough, he really got me fit. And it was the year that they went on. I think they beat Arsenal. They had a really good team, actually. Scarborough at that time had a really good young team. I think they beat Arsenal in the Coca-Cola Cup, or whatever it was called at that time. And he was trying to sign me. To be fair, he said he would have signed me, but their budget they had a skeleton squad. It's all he could afford. So he kept me on non-contract terms. And obviously I said to him, "Listen, non-contract isn't where I want to be. I want to be getting a contract somewhere." So that's why I was also going. I went to Peterborough, I think Scunthorpe, somewhere else, and then continued to play for Gould. And I was playing for Gould, and I was playing up top again. I was back playing as a striker, and just whether it was luck or whatever, just kept banging in the goals. And I think I'd scored in the first 9 games. I was on about 16 goals or something ridiculous. I've never had that sort of goal ratio ever. Even at blooming schoolboy, I must have looked like a prolific striker. Anyway, I ended up getting a trial with Huddersfield off the back of sort of a lot of the goals for Gould. And probably could tell you a story. I don't know if it's interesting or not, but my dad used to work for Nestle, Rowntree's Nestle. And he knew a guy who you will all have heard of, a guy called Jimmy Lawson, town legend, brilliant footballer and really nice bloke. And Jimmy Lawson, I think, I know, he obviously had spoken with my dad and he said, "Listen, let's get him across to Huddersfield. If he's doing well at Gould, I'll get him a trial at Huddersfield." So that is how I ended up. That is the genuine truth, how I got to a trial at Huddersfield. It was Jimmy Lawson that put my name forward to Mulhall. George Mulhall.
Yeah, was he the youth coach at the time?
The youth coach. And Jimmy's lad, Ian, was obviously at the club. So Jimmy still had an affinity or a connection at the club. And he arranged a trial at Huddersfield. And the days or the weeks that I went to trial, the first day I went to trial, it was the year after Town had just been beaten in the playoffs. I think Peterborough beat them in the playoffs. That calendar year. So I've gone to train with them must have been, I don't know, the October time. And I think Town were really struggling after having had a really close challenge to getting promotion. They struggled the following year, didn't they?
92, I think, that year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was 92, yeah. So they must have just missed out on promotion in the end of 92 season. Then going into the 92-93 season, I think they struggled, didn't they?
Yeah, I've got this 92-93 season. It's we call like the 97-98 season under Peter Jackson as the Great Escape season, but I think 92-93 could probably be classed as the greatest escape, if you like. Because Town had a massive playoff hangover. I remember losing to Peterborough. I think everybody thought we were going to beat Peterborough. We went down there, we drew 2-2 with Peterborough. We were the better side in the first half in the return game, and then the second half they went over the top of us twice. And I think, is it Steve Cooper? Bobby Barnes was playing wing for them, and I think
Ken Charlie
scored first
game.
Well,
I trained with all them during my trial period at Peterborough. They were a good team. They were good
to be fair, they were. And I think Ian Bennett was involved, wasn't he, back then with the goalkeeper? Yeah. And
Marcus Ebden, midfield.
Yeah, good side.
Roger Willis. There's some really good
Who was
players.
the manager Ian at that time?
Chris Turner.
Chris Turner.
Possibly, yeah.
And Lil Facillo. No, I always remember that name. I don't know from.
Fancy back then, wasn't it?
He was at Lou, and he was always in my sticker album. Always in my Panini sticker album, Lil Facillo.
Did he play for Luton or something? Anyway?
Yeah, Luton.
Yeah, Lil Facillo. I always remember his name. He's one of them names, isn't it? Glamorous. But yeah, Chris Turner was manager, Peterborough.
Yeah, so you came into Huddersfield. It must have been a bit of a difficult, because I think you came in, was it around about December or so, 92? So we'd have been around that sort of period whereby I think we'd lost a cluster of games. We were at bottom of the league. I think
it was completely bizarre, wasn't it, though? It was just, I mean, I remember rocking up, and obviously I've lived in Bradford all my life. I can't stand Bradford City. And we rocked up down there for FA Cup game. And obviously we didn't have the joy of internet and stuff like that then. So you literally got team when players ran out, and who's this? Number 10. Who's that? And direct team, I said, Iain Dunn, number 10. We're like, who the bloody hell's Iain Dunn? And that game, what an introduction to Huddersfield Town that was for you. I mean, obviously, FA Cup tie. I remember you getting headbutted by Noel Blake.
Yeah.
That were a bit of a dodgy one, wasn't it? But yeah, tell us a bit about that and how you felt leading into that. And obviously, what a game to make your debut in, because that was a volatile one.
Well, just rewinding the build-up to that for me as a young lad who thought he was half decent, then got knocked back, and then struggled, to be brutally honest. And then, to be honest, that 92 season, it was carry on for a while, and if nothing else materialised, I'm going to have to go and get a job, and in real life. But yeah, the Huddersfield Town thing came across, and I did. You're right. I joined them when they were lower than a snake's belly. Really, Town. I went in that first Monday morning. Got some stories about that as well. Jack would probably have a laugh about it. But that first Monday morning, I've gone in, and they'd just been beat again, and they decided to have a first team versus reserve team practice match. So that Monday morning, I am playing in what was the reserve team, because he was mixing the team around. I think Ian Ross he'd tried so many different things. He didn't know who his first team was, because they performed that poorly. Let's be brutally honest, they were struggling. But the lucky thing for me was I've come in off. My confidence was sky high, because I've been banging them in for goal, and I had a couple of clubs sort of asking me to go and train with them. So I'm thinking there's got to be something here. But when I got to Huddersfield, I looked around and thought, this is a bit bigger than, Gold Town, even Peterborough. Without being disrespectful to them, I'm looking at Huddersfield thinking, Jesus Christ, Peter Jackson's over there, Ife Onora, Ewan Roberts, Phil Stack. These are all names I'd heard of as being far above my sort of station. But I've gone in that Monday morning. We wanted to play this game, and I've ended up in what was a reserve team of Kieran O'Regan. I think Phil Starbuck was in it. We had Chris Billy, John Dyson, Simon Charlton was in the reserve team that I was in. So I was up front in this team of players now. And within 5 minutes, I'm looking around thinking, I'm going to struggle here. These are too good. Genuinely, that was my thing. Kieran Regan, his passing was just crisp. It was beautiful. He was a first-team player, really, but he clearly struggled at the start of that season. And he found himself in this practice match in a reserve team. I'm up front against Jacko. I can't remember who the other centre. Graham Mitchell. And I'm not being big-headed here. I scored 3 within the first 45 minutes. So basically had everything I hit went in the back of the net. And John Dyson, I remember him coming up to me and going, like shaking me, like doing that with my head and going, who are you sort of thing? Keep it going. And John Dyson became a really good friend of John. He was really good because he basically put his arm around my shoulder. He knew I was a trialist. But I think they realised that something was drastically wrong when a trialist is coming in and scoring a load of goals. Whereas I'm looking back and thinking, yeah, but I've got Kieran O'Regan. I've got Charlie on the left-hand side. I've got there was some at Chris Billy. Thinking this is a good team. So the first team were up against it. But of course, the manager only saw the goals going in. So I played that Monday morning. Then on the Monday night, the reserves were playing away at Blackpool. And I wasn't down for that. But after that first training session, Ian Ross calls me and said, right, Mick Lyons called me and said, right, we've got a game tonight across Blackpool, are you okay? So I'm like, yeah, of course I am, absolutely, yeah. Can't wait. I was knackered. I just played against Huddersfield Town, trying my hardest to impress. But went to Blackpool, I think we got beaten. I had a stinker, to be honest. But they had another game on the Wednesday night. Weirdly, I think it was the Monday and the Wednesday, if my memory serves me well. And they asked me to play on the Wednesday night as well. And I think I scored. And training went like this. I was going to training and just, for whatever reason, everything I was doing worked for me, whether it's luck or whatever. I took it. Played a couple more reserve games, and then I knew something was going on when we were travelling up to Middlesbrough, and Ian Ross, the manager, hadn't been to see any reserve games up to that point. This was my third game. My first game, I drew a blank against Blackpool. I think I scored in the second game. Then I scored 2, or maybe even 3 in another reserve game. Then we were playing Middlesbrough away, and they had, I don't know if you remember names, Nicky Mohan, Palace, there were some good players, Bernie Slave, and Middlesbrough had a really good team. That's what was in the old Central League. And we've gone up to Middlesbrough and we beat them 3-1. Totally, no one saw this happening. Ian Ross came to watch that game. I scored 2. Straight after the game, he says to me, right, how do you fancy signing for us? Oh, you don't have to ask me. Just tell me where to sign. It was like that. And he spoke to me dad after the game, and he couldn't have been more effusive about me. He was really complimentary, as if he was trying to sell Huddersfield to me. And I'm thinking, God, if only you knew, I'd walk barefoot back to Huddersfield to sign. And I did, signed the very next morning. And then going, without, hopefully I'm not boring you too much, but
no, carry on.
After the Middlesbrough game, I signed on the Thursday, dead easy contract, cheap as chips, I came literally for nothing. And he then called me into his office on the Friday, and he said, listen, we haven't got a game this Saturday, or something was going on, but our next game basically is going to be in a week's time. And it was Bradford in the FA Cup. Now, not for a minute did I think I was going to be involved in that. But he said, we want you signed up, want you available to play. And I'm thinking, well, brilliant. So I've signed the forms, all ready to go. And of course, non-league being non-league, apparently in them days you had to have a 7-day clearance to play in the FA Cup. So this will have been 9th to Friday before the following Sunday. Dad gets a phone call. Listen, we want Ian to be available to play for us. However, the FA rules are that 7-day clearance is meant to be given, and Gould aren't giving it. So Gull weren't going to clear it without a fee. And this is where I think they got a few couple £100 and 30 footballs or something ridiculous. You know, it wasn't the biggest of negotiations, silly Gull. But Iain Ross was desperate to sign me. So I'm thinking, wow, God, it doesn't matter what it was. If it could have been a cornetto, he's gone out to make sure that I'm available. So all that week, I'm thinking, wow, what is going on here? I could be in with a little bit of a chance.
Have a chance here,
yeah. And then I'm looking at it realistically and thinking, I'm a trialist. There's all these, in my head, stars at the club. No chance. I kept myself grounded. But that training that week, again, just for some reason, whether it's because Town's players were a little bit lacking in confidence or whatever, or I was just bubbling, everything was going right again. Scoring goals every morning, training. So it all went really well. And on the Friday, get the call, you're travelling with us on Sunday. I'm like, oh, Christ, what's this mean? I genuinely, 110%, honest as God, did never expect to be. I thought he was just taking a squad on a bus to the games. It was such a big game. And then on the Friday, there's something in the Examiner about me. And Jacko had made a comment, no one knows who I am. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, on the Sunday, I turn up at Valley Parade. My dad drops me off. Didn't go on the bus. Sorry, no, I did. I got dropped off at the club and got on the bus to Bradford. I've sneaked on. I didn't speak to anyone or anything because the first team didn't really know who I was. Anyway, get sat down in the changing room. All the kits are out. And of course, Iain Ross reads out the team. Now, I had, up until that point, kind of clinging to the hope, could I be a sub here? I might be a sub. And then when he named me in the team, I could see everyone, Ewan Roberts, Jacko. I'm like in the corner like this. And they've literally, as I've looked up when he said my name, to see everyone else's face go, like shaking their head and going, who? Who? Is that the trialist? Is that the trialist? A little lad with funny hair and I mean, I looked like a poorest footballer in the world. I had old Chesterfield training kit every day, boots that were hanging off us, and they're all looking as if, what the heck is going on here? So yeah, long way around a short story, I suppose. But yeah, that was my introduction to Huddersfield Town and then to me.
I'll tell you what, Ian, that day I remember we took a right following as well, didn't we? I think did we have the side as well? I think top, bottom tier and...
Get the hairs on the back of my neck right now, going out. I put my kit on, warm up top, and I've gone out. Where did you come out? Did you come out in the middle or was it in the corner?
Right in corner. You come out in corner by that like spice rack stand where we were.
Yeah, traffic lights out there,
Yeah, well, I've come out in that corner and I've looked across and you can see the fans. You know, even now, an hour before kickoff, filtering on. This is bigger than anything I was used to playing in front of 2,000 or 3,000, and latterly at goal probably 200 or 300. So to look across at this and it felt like finally, like I love York City. They're my hometown team. I'll always support York City, and actually their fans make a real big noise. But the number of Town fans and the noise they were making, and the fact that it was Bradford as well, and there was this big stadium, everything just seemed elevated. It was all just so big. And I was just taking deep breaths and looking around thinking, what am I doing?
What the hell am I doing here?
Yeah. Oh dear. And it was so surreal. It really was so surreal. And the noise factor was immense. And I'm sure all the fans at that point, you'll probably tell me, when they've read the team out, I could almost feel it like, well, they haven't got a clue I am.
Yeah.
I'm up front with Ewan, or whoever it was at the time. So yeah, I think it was me and Ewan up front. So yeah, what a day. What a day.
Talk about the game, Ian. I'll tell you one story I've got to say. I lost my head when we'd scored. Walked back in the Bradford centre after trying to avoid getting knocked out because I'd left my wallet in the away end of the front. Rushed right back into the ground and it was still there.
Really?
Yeah, that's just kind of you're on about your luck all that week with the training. That was mine. I could talk about this game all night. Go on, Ian, tell us about that game because it was an incredible afternoon.
Well, I'm getting hairs on the back of my neck just thinking about it now because when I really do try and think hard about it, everything leading up to it just seemed like I say, surreal, magical, whatever. But yeah, I mean, again, I felt, you'll probably tell me rightly or wrongly, I had a good start. I got a few good touches early on in the game, and I felt as if it just seemed to be, I kind of knew something was going to happen because everything had happened so smoothly the previous 2 to 3 weeks. When I was on that pitch, I'm looking at it, I got that buzz of whatever it is, adrenaline or whatever, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to score here. I knew I was going to score. I can't, it's hard to say it, you know, I couldn't have said it before the game training because you'd look a right prat. But I knew I was going to do something in that game. I knew it. Just knew it. And then I think it was 17 minutes. Was it?
It was early, yeah.
Neil Parsley put that ball in and look at it, I'm 5'10", and I was up against Noel Blake and I've beat him in the air.
Yeah, he didn't like that, did he?
I remember he got me back later on, didn't he?
You also rinsed him on the flank as well, didn't you? You absolutely spun someone out wide and you put Ewan through, and then you went on this mad run, didn't you, from the flank and beat several players and beat Noel Blake all ends up, and then Noel gave you a big warm welcome to West Yorkshire, didn't he?
Yeah, and to big boys football, yeah. Rinsed, I love that word, rinsed, because I did. I look back, it was just like I say, everything, just whether I was because I was unknown quantity or whatever, they didn't know what to do with me. It just all just seemed to happen right on the day for me. And yeah, I got the penalty, didn't you? We got a penalty.
Yeah, you got a penalty as well. Or Regan scored.
What a penalty or not?
He's proper pulling me down. I was going to score. Well, yeah, I felt I'd have scored.
Is that where he buttered you, Ian, in that? I'm trying to remember it.
He's pulled me down as I've got up. He's done that, and he's caught me with the bony bit of his shoulder. I tell you, brutally, it hurt.
He was a big guy, wasn't he? He was a big guy, Noel Blake.
He was an ox. The lad was he was a brutal ox. He'd ended a few more players softer than me, much harder than me. So, yeah, I felt the full force of his shoulder. He was, a big lad. Like I said, still got the scar, knocked me top of my tooth off. So, well, it didn't matter. I didn't genuinely hardly felt anything because that day, the crowd, you were there.
Brilliant, yeah.
It was unbelievable. The atmosphere was just, I couldn't ever have wished for a better place to have a debut for a football club.
There's always been a lot of needle between Town and Bradford, and around that time we were all in sort of same divisions around about each other.
Yeah.
So to get somebody like you rocking up in a game like that,
yeah,
there's needle before game anyway, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
And then you rock up, nobody knows you, they don't know you, we don't know you.
Yeah.
And then you go and do all that, and it's that stuff as a fan. You never forget stuff like that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Not only did you upset Bradford City fans, you also upset Halifax fans by scoring a hat-trick against them a couple of days later as well, didn't you? So it was all of a sudden Huddersfield have got this, the bottom of the league, the fans aren't in a great place. Then the Cups, they've got something to cling on to here, and you're scoring a hat-trick against Halifax and Bradford. And you also when we went to Bradford, it was my first away game, I think, was first away game at Bradford was in the league game that season, and I remember you put the ball in from the left-hand side, which Ewan nodded back, and Gary Barnett scored as well, didn't we? When we won 1-0 in the Cup as well, and did them in the Cup. So your name to other fans in West Yorkshire must have been mud. Never mind Iain Dunn, but the hat-trick as well. There's one or two good goals in there as well, isn't there? And you must have been flying at this point. And at this point, Huddersfield obviously struggling in the league, but what was it like as well with the players in that first team? Could you feel a bit like there was a struggle, or was everything sort of starting to come together a bit?
I felt, certainly after that Bradford game gave the whole place a real lift, I think. And like you said, the cup games, we kept winning. It was kind of like for me, it was unbelievable because I just seemed to get a bit of luck in the cup. So scoring goals, and we kept sort of cracking away at the cup games. I think, if memory serves me right, that in the league we were still struggling a bit, weren't we? Because ultimately they brought Mick Buxton in to sort of stiffen things up. But we were sort of. He must have come in pretty soon after I did.
We're going to ask how Mick Buxton was, because I think we were bottom until February, and I think one game that stands out, Neil Kosi, you might remember this. There's a home game against Blackpool where I think we won 5-2, and you crossed the ball for Ife and Ura's diving header as well.
Yeah.
at this point, Mick Buxton as a legend, Neil and Kosi will remember Mick Buxton far more than I do for being a legendary figure at Huddersfield and one of the best coaches Huddersfield have had since Ian Greaves, 1969-70. Him and David Wagner and Neil Warnock are probably the three that people would pick out. Maybe Jacko to a point. Yeah. Town won 12 of their last 16 games that season, and we'd gone from absolute rock bottom to all of a sudden lifting up in the league, and that must have been a real ride to go on. And how important was Mick Buxton in that? And once you've told us that, maybe you can tell us through biggest game or the biggest gate of that season, a midweek game against Stoke City, and somebody from the right hand side rifles in one of the best goals at Leeds Road of the 90s.
I look back at that and I think, is that really me? It was just, yeah. I mean, to be honest, yeah, we were struggling, but I go back to the fact that I looked, when I first came to that club, I'm looking around at players and thinking, these are all top footballers that, in the football world, you'd heard of them. The Peter Jacksons, the Ewans, the Iffies, the Starbys, Parsleys, Gary Barnett, Kieran O'Regan. Unfortunately, I think the keepers at the time were really low on confidence. Tim Clark and
it's because I'll be honest, Dunny, it's because Tim Clark's rubbish. If I'm being brutal.
Well, I'm not going to say that. He was a lovely lad. I met him in Lanzarote about 10 years ago.
I was going to ask what he was like, Tim Clark, because he seemed like a bit of a jovial kind of fellow, I felt.
He was a lovely bloke, yeah, but you're right. They kept making really big mistakes at big times in games, and I think that was a lot to do with what the confidence of the whole team would go, because if your keeper is making mistakes, or his potential to make mistakes, the rest of the team are on edge. If your back four suddenly have to do a bit more because they're scared that if they don't do their job, they're not going to get pulled out.
What was Mick Buxton like? What was his secret to his?
Yeah. Well, when he came in, like I say, the team was on a bit of a lower, but I'm looking around thinking these are all good players. And you don't suddenly become a bad team from what was there going before. But what happened is Ian Ross, I think, and he signed me, and I've got a lot to thank him for, and he was a brilliant guy. But Mick came in and basically cracked the whip. Ian had a lot of loyalty towards the players that had done so well for him. And I, looking back, I wonder if he was too nice to them. He couldn't rollick them because they'd done so well for him, and he knew they were good players, and he trusted them to turn it around. But every game, they weren't turning it around. Yeah. I reckon that's why Mick came in. I tell you, the first thing, I'll never forget him. We're in the changing room at Leeds Road, home changing room, as you do, getting ready for training. He comes in and he says, he introduced himself, and straight away, I can't swear on this, kind of bricking out.
I can beep it.
Well, I was. When he started talking, I thought, I'm scared of this man. He looks like he knows what he's talking about. He looks like there's a little bit in him that could be a bit psycho here. And he got off this imaginary axe, and I'll never forget it. And he says, right, this is where we are in the league. I won't do his accent, even though he's that Yorkshire, that Geordie accent. No, he won't thank for that Sunderland accent, wasn't it? Northeast accent. He's got this imaginary axe, and he says, right, teams are going to come here and they're going to play against us and they're going to meet this. He goes like that. Then he picks up this axe and he says, we're at the bottom of the league. The top of the league is when we bash through that wall. And he starts this imaginary axe bashing the wall. And I'm looking at him going, and I'm looking at the rest of the team. I'm looking at Peter Jackson, who is so dominant, such a dominant, influential figure, and even he's looking and going,
what is going on here?
Not even taking the mick or what's going on. He's looking at thinking, yeah, he's got a point here. This is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to, basically the message was, you're going to have to start banging down doors, because all your nice, pretty football, we had some good footballers, Starby, Kieran, all them names I've just mentioned, they weren't doing it. They were playing nice, pretty football and getting beat. And Mick Buxton came in and said, right, out with that. You're going to become the most awful, horrible, hard-working team in this league. And I reckon, I'd love to, I can't remember exactly what month he came in to when our results started to change. But looking back now, if he hadn't come in, we'd have probably played lovely football and got relegated. And that'd have been a disaster. He comes in, totally stiffens everything up, he changed a few things. I was moved to the wings, which naturally I sort of kind of knew was going to happen because my frame, my bodywork, in that level of football, any level of football, probably wasn't, what's the word, powerful enough. I was kind of quick, not electric. I was kind of strong, not an ox. I could tackle, not best. I could hit a ball and I could cross a ball. So where do you end up? Out on the wing. And Mick, I think, identified that within probably the first couple of training sessions, and I found myself on the wing. I played more games that season than ever. And I still look back at that season, even as a promotion season where Warnock was brilliant with me. But that first season for me at Huddersfield was, I'll never forget it, because I became a first team regular. I was playing every week. I knew I was going to be playing, and I knew my role. He'd have you in training, and he'd get me in particular. Maybe he thought I was naive or inexperienced or whatever. And he'd work on me literally for an hour every morning. Right, this is what you do. I want you as a right midfielder. So you're not a winger. You're not quick enough to be a winger. You can cross a ball, son. So I want you to work hard on the right hand side. And when that left back gets the ball, I want you in his face. That's your job. And if that left back puts the ball over your head, I want you chasing the ball to help your fullback. So my instructions couldn't have been clearer. And I think that's what Mick did with everyone in that season. He made everyone's roles simplistic. Defenders defend. Your midfielders, wide midfielders, defend and attack. So it's probably the toughest role in the team. Your strikers stay up there, and your two midfielders get the ball and play it forward. And I don't know, was it pretty? It probably wasn't pretty to watch. But it wasn't ugly because it was direct, and I enjoyed that kind of football. We weren't trying to do 1, 2, 3, 4 touch, little 1-2s all around the place. We were playing really fast, direct football. And if you look at the players that we had, I was semi-quick. Barney was quick on the left-hand side. If he was lightning, why didn't they utilise that before? There was no point trying to play into Iffy's feet, and he'd be the first to admit it. He didn't want the ball into his feet because he was a chase the ball because he was lightning and he was so strong. And actually, given the right ingredients, Iffy became a really good goal, a real threat that season for us.
Yeah, were you surprised Mick Buxton left? I remember buzzing that he came back. It was almost like the second coming for me as a fan and nostalgia. And obviously, he did a good job again. Did he always feel you it was just a bit of a stopgap, or were you surprised that he went as well at the end?
I was gutted when they left because I'd signed a year. I'd signed to the end of the season. No, I didn't. I'd signed a 2-year contract. They gave me a 2-year contract. So at the end of that season, my first season, Mick got offered the Sunderland job. I think he got offered the Sunderland job, and I'm pretty sure he took Ian Ross with him. I think the pair of them left that summer.
They did, yeah.
Have I got the right years? Yeah, the pair of them left that summer, and then. But I wonder if maybe Warnock had already been sort of questioned about coming to the club. So yeah, personally for me, at that point in time, I'm thinking, oh God, the guy that signed me and the guy that has made my job, like, I know exactly what I need to do. They're both going. And he actually, maybe I don't know if I should say this or not, but there was a chance, there was talk that I could have gone to Sunderland with him at the time. I think that Mick Buxton wanted me to go with him to Sunderland, but Huddersfield didn't entertain it because the new manager was coming in. He wanted to look at the players, etc., etc. So, and in hindsight, looking back, I'm absolutely over the moon because even though Sunderland were probably, in the country, they still are one of the biggest sort of clubs at that time. They were struggling themselves anyway, and I'd found my home. I'd found Huddersfield, and thankfully, Mr. Warnock, he liked me as well. He called me in that first day. Him and Nick Jones had been to the Bradford game where I made my debut. So I wonder if they knew even then the Huddersfield job might come up. Probably, no more.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, but he said, my God, we thought you were Gaza. And probably looking back at that one game in my snapshot of my career where everything just seemed to happen. And I'll never forget him. He said, we thought we got the next Gaza in you. And that was my first meeting with Neil Warnock. So I knew then I was onto a good thing anyway.
Just to wrap up that 92-93 season as well, Ian, just tell us about that goal against Stoke, because I think a lot of people won't have seen it. And what I'll do is I'll put out some I think it's quite grainy, isn't it, on YouTube, the footage from Calendar, where I think he won goal of the season on Calendar in the region as well. This was you coming in from the right flank, wasn't it? And then you did you cut across it and then it just goes into far corner, touches the bar slightly and sticks in.
I think it was Gary Barnett had got it on the left-hand side, and it was at the time when we were sort of the team in form, but Stoke I think Stoke were maybe top of the table. So it was going to be a tough game. They were expected to beat us. And Barney's run down the left-hand side, and as he's crossed it, I'm going a little bit from memory and a little bit from looking at it like every day of my life. And I'm literally at the corner of the 18-yard box, and my first touch has just, looking back and thinking, my God, brought it down. And to be honest, I've just hit it. As it's hit the ground, I've hit it. And it's one of them, as soon as any footballer tells you and they've hit the ball properly, there's nothing going to stop it. But as I've looked up and I knew it was going in, there's no doubt in my mind it was going in. But then for it to stick in the stanchion, it's like that doesn't happen. I don't know how many times that's happened in football, but it doesn't happen often. And I remember looking back thinking, my God, then the ball boy came and punched it out, didn't he? Yeah. Thinking, leave it in there. Let Peter Fox grab it. But yeah, well.
It was actually used, wasn't it? What was that programme, Matt? You'll know it. We used on credits for that football programme that lad out of Brookside presented, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Off the bar or off the post.
I don't know, right, wasn't it? That guy, yeah.
Standing room only. It was Damien someone, yeah.
Standing room only, that's it. Yeah. Credits for that.
Yeah. It was, what a moment. And we had a big crowd that day as well. So the atmosphere was electric. And
the night game, wasn't it?
That goal. Yeah.
There's also something special about a night game at Leeds Road. There was just something about it. It was just a proper football ground, wasn't it?
Just going back to as well about the whole, everything, the surface, the playing field, for me, from where I come from goal and playing non-league around for 3 or 4 months, the playing surface was so good as well.
That snooker table, wouldn't it, compared?
I don't know if that ever gets mentioned by footballers because you expect it now, don't you? But in them days, to go on and play on a pitch like that, and it was just that right substance. It was just perfect to play football on.
It was Raymond Chappell, wasn't it, who were groundsman, and they were there for donkey's years. And I remember when the ground closed, me and my dad went for a bit of a look round before they started knocking it down. I went in cowshed and stood on pitch and went in that gantry above main stand and what have you. And Raymond Chappell's in there cutting grass. He's getting knocked down that week and he's in there cutting grass.
Pride and joy.
My dad just basically said, what are you doing? He just said, it's mine, innit? Just want to cut it again.
Bless
really sort of sad moment, really. But it just showed you, obviously, the appreciation you players had for a good pitch. He genuinely loved that football pitch. It was like his back garden on it. And it had that sort of what they call a camber, didn't it? So it sort of rose in penalty area across 6-yard box. It was just a proper ground. When I get tingly talking about that place, to be honest, it was a special place.
We haven't even got to
go and play there. It was just like that was me. My next game was obviously we played Bradford twice. My first 2 games, and then my first home game was like, and you're looking at this big a stadium, wasn't it? It was a stadium.
Yeah, well,
in the greatest sense of the word in them days. To me, it was like this huge theatre, and the noise they make, blooming heck.
50 minutes, and we haven't even got onto the Warnock era, Ian. But I think the next season, it wasn't just that we had Neil Warnock. I think the thing that finished Tim Clark, the back pass rule came in, didn't it? In that
was 92, 93. Was that was the thing? Because 93, 94, they brought in Steve Francis, didn't they, for about 150 grand? It was tribunal.
If you ask Warnock, what was one of his best keeper signings? I bet he'd say Franny.
It was superb.
100%.
Absolutely.
How we got him for 100 grand, I will never ever know.
He was top class, and that 93, 94 season, and that again, Neil Warnock came in, and it didn't start very well again, did it? It seemed like he was from the outside looking in. It looked like he was intent on ripping up the Ian Ross team, if you like, and he brought in a lot of players from non-league. I remember John Whitney came in, didn't he, from Winsford? Darren Bullock, one of my heroes as well, came in from Nuneaton. Richard Logan from Gainsborough, and there was quite a few. Mark Wells and was it Richard Ward, the other one?
Well, Richard Ward, man. He's
Mark Wells,
Stuart Ward lives in Whitby.
Tell you what, though, early on, we didn't just not get results. It were awful to watch, and the fans were howling. And I must admit, I were kind of really struggling to stick in there being a youth, but obviously, it all turned right in the end. But how did you feel early on, Ian? Did you think he ripped up too much?
Probably controversially, they were all really good players, but they just weren't Warnock players. They weren't. Phil Starbuck was a great footballer, and him and Warnock sort of flirted with each other a bit. I had no doubt that Warnock was going to get rid of him. One way or the other, he even made him captain just before he got rid of him. It was like, what's playing out in front of us here doesn't seem to be consistent. We all know that Starby is probably going to end up on his way. They only made him captain to get a bit more money from him. Who knows the way Warnock works? But that team was not a Warnock team in them divisions. The thing about Warnock was, I think he gets a lot of unfair stick about his style of football. I think he manipulates his style of football to the league he's playing in.
100%.
He doesn't get the credit he deserves. He watches. For him to be at that Bradford game on my debut 6 months before he came to Huddersfield, I think he watches a lot of football, and he'll have known what football was needed to get us in a good position to get promotion.
I'll tell you what he made. He made exciting football. He made football that you could get behind. He was passionate, everything about it, and that got the fans engaged at a point when they probably weren't. I mean, when he got rid of who was it? Chris Marsden, and Chris Marsden, you could tell. Left foot has also looked better, don't they, somehow, but he just looked like a proper footballer. Chris Marsden went on to have a bloody good career, but just never going to be a Warnock type.
He'd have never done that. Mazza was brilliant. He's one of the names I missed out when I'm looking around thinking, crikey, how good are these? And Mazza was never going to play for Warnock. He went off and did great things because he found for him his manager. You know what I mean?
Played at top end, didn't he? Good player.
If he got just about that, Warnock maybe used him a bit more than Ewan. He got rid of Ewan fairly quickly because Boothie was coming through.
Made a bit of a statement, didn't he, with Ewan and Jack Coy. That Arsenal game at home, he binned them both and played with John Dyson and Boothie.
That's right.
That was sort of a bit of a standout. Whoa, Arsenal, what are you doing? But
got beat 5-0.
Ian Wright were all right, wasn't he?
He wasn't bad, was he? Yeah. But no, you're right. He did. Them players, they were all individually good players, but they weren't what you would consider what Warnock needed for that division. Warnock at Sheffield United going into the Premier League might have signed Mazza, Chris Marsden, or Ewan.
Yeah.
But I think he just knew at that time that this to get us out of the mess we were in, we didn't have the right footballer. They were lovely footballers, but they weren't the right ones for what he felt would get us out of the division. And ultimately, he was proven right, wasn't he?
You were prolific in the Cups again that year. I think you got 8 that year in Cups. And how did it feel? I know the game was maybe a bit of a dead rubber, but you've in 12 months, you've gone from, less than 12 months, you've gone from scoring for Gould to going out at Highbury and scoring. Steve Bold has flicked it up for you, hasn't he? And you've got in. And was it David Seaman in goal?
David Seaman in goal. Some people joke I lobbed Seaman, but I didn't. I put it through his legs. So,
but you've gone from that, and it's just sort of it's a really good, interesting journey arc. You know how you've gone from Gould to scoring at Highbury. It's a really good story, and that season.
Royal Rover stuff, isn't it?
I don't know if you remember the Barnet game as well. For me, the Barnet game was probably the worst moment of that season. I think Barnet hadn't won for months, and then they came to Leeds Road, didn't they? And they beat us 2-1, and I think that was the point where maybe things started to change a little bit more from Neil Warnock. And how did he compare then to Buxton? Because I've always thought Warnock was quite a vociferous. You know, we've seen the videos, and we'll talk about the videos when we talk about the next season. But we've seen that he can be quite aggressive. You know, we've seen it at Sheffield United. Does he compare to Mick Buxton maybe in those ways? Not that he carried an axe or anything.
I think with me, an imaginary action. I think Mick came in, and again, credit to Mick, he knew what he needed to do. He knew with the players. He'll have known who was there and who needed to kick up the bum and who didn't. And Mick came in with that attitude. He was going to scare people into playing well. Warnock, for me, he knew how to speak to each player individually. He never ever rollocked me, and he must, times that I didn't do tackles or whatever, he knew what I could and what I couldn't do. So there's no point rollocking me for not putting in a 50-50 challenge and winning the ball and sending someone 10 foot in the air. That was Richard Logan's job or Darren Bullock's job. Never ever. I don't think I've ever had a rollicking off Warnock, even though he used me in that video but he knew how to talk to me to get the best out of me. I was probably frail is the wrong word, but if he'd have highlighted all the mistakes that I made in a game, he probably knew that would it wouldn't make me play any better, put it that way. Whereas he was positive. Whereas with the likes of Darren Bullock, if Darren Bullock made a mistake, Warnock would scream at him. But then Bullock could go out and have an absolute screamer, So he knew how to talk to each player individually. He knew there's no point rollicking. Boothie, never rollicked Boothie. And Boothie, when he gave the ball away or didn't win a header, he'd have a little, hey Boothie, you got to win them, and then rollock someone else. So it's like you're thinking, when's my rollicking coming? But looking back, it never actually did. He was very clever in that respect. He knew.
That's why he's been so successful for so long, isn't it? It's just proper top drawer man management.
Yeah, he knew.
He could read his players.
Yeah, he knew what would work and what wouldn't with each individual person. So no, he was. You would never cross him. You would never cross Warnock because you knew he'd have you if you did. But the one thing I always remember, one of the lads saying, maybe one of the coaches saying, he will go for you at the end of the game. He'll rollock you, maybe tell you you're the worst player in the world. Monday morning, it is as if it never happened. Gone. You were his player again, and you were going to be better. So he didn't ever bury someone. I've played for managers that buried me, and there's no coming back from that. When a manager doesn't like you, there's nothing you can do.
No.
Whereas with Warnock, he could rollick you, but on Monday morning, you are back in. And sometimes he'd rollick you, tell you you're out, and then you'd play the next game. It was like, so he believed in his players, and I think he knew what he was doing when he was talking to them and how he talked to them. I've played for managers that if they don't like you, they'll let you know about it, and you're done. With Warnock, you never knew that because whilst you were assigned on professional for him, you were an asset. And it goes back to Neil's comment there. That is why he's been so successful for so long with so many players. There'll not be many players bad-mouthing, I tell you. Not be many. No.
Okay, we'll end part one of the Iain Dunn interview there. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and we'll post the second part up in the coming days.
Oh, what a night. Late in May in 2017, Schindler scored, it was a heaven dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. The greatest sight St. George's Square did see. What an evening, what a night. Oh, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh, what a night. Lost so safe and mesmerizing me. Low charge and flattened all Chelsea. Stamford Bridge, oh what a night. Whoa, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh,